and blank you, okay?
This is a disgusting and frankly sad case of alleged neglect in Florida. Two parents were put under arrest after one of their boys was found running across 4 lanes of traffic and another was found wandering a neighborhood alone. Deputies say, get this, both of the boys were covered in their own feces. But in the body cam video that I'm about to show you, it appears that these boys' parents don't seem to understand or grasp what they allegedly did wrong. We're on the case presented by Law&Crime. I'm Chris Stewart. Listen, I get it. Everyone parents their own way. But in cases of alleged neglect, like what I'm about to show you, there's really no excuse for children to be put in the situation that Okaloosa County deputies in Florida say they found. This is some of the newly released body camera video of when deputies responded to a call of a young boy running across 4 lanes of traffic, nearly being hit by cars. And that is scary enough, but it gets worse. They are able to find that boy at a gas station, and this is what they saw.
Come on, come on, come on, you're okay, come on. Remember me? Come on, we're gonna go, okay?
Hey, baby, I'm gonna wrap up in a blank you, okay?
There you go. Yeah. Thank you.
All the way down.
We know that, yeah.
You do?
Yeah, we've unfortunately.
Okay.
So,
Said
were
there
you,
was another.
The Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office redacted a lot of the video that they sent us, which is why you're hearing the audio drop out at times. It is unclear just how old the boy is, but deputies say that he was covered in his own feces. On top of that, deputies seem to recognize this boy and seem to know where he lives because of a similar case. This has apparently happened before. Here's body cam video of a deputy arriving at the boy's home. Now take in everything that you see on the front porch of that house.
he's naked.
The deputy is knocking on the door, but no one's answering. Then about a minute and a half later, the boy's mom comes to the door. Her name is Danielle Roberson. Now, bear with us because, again, they have redacted parts of their conversation, but you'll just see how Roberson responded.
Hello.
Where have you been?
I'm sorry?
I've been knocking for like 3 or 4 again.
Oh my God.
Can you?
Oh my.
You got contact?
Yeah, but she closed the door on me and went back. Locked it.
Oh.
Coming back to the house. It's 10-4. I don't have eyes on.
I'm so
Okay,
sorry.
we've now. Okay.
This morning.
Okay.
And I
Were you
am-
sleeping? I'm not sure which one it is, but I can tell you that I had to one across Green Acres who almost got hit by multiple vehicles.
I can't even believe. Sick.
Okay, were you asleep?
No, I've been in the all night long. And
Can you secure the dog, please? You're not going to shut the door on me again.
I'm not trying to. I'm trying to.
I get that.
I want to take a moment and bring you a law and crime legal alert. If you received Depo-Provera birth control shots and were later diagnosed with a brain or spinal tumor called meningioma, you may be eligible for a lawsuit. Our partners at Morgan & Morgan are investigating claims that patients weren't properly warned about this risk. It's free to check, takes just a few minutes, and you don't pay unless they win. So scan the QR code on your screen. You can also click the link below or go to forthepeople.com/LCDEPO to see if you qualify. Not only did one of Roberson's children almost get hit by a car running through traffic, deputies found another one of her boys in their neighborhood, and sadly, he was also covered in his own feces.
Hey, you mind coming over to my car with me? Can you come on over here in my car? Hey, what's your name? I'll get a towel.
Like the first boy that deputies found in traffic, the second boy also has to be wrapped in a towel and brought back home. Now, we don't see the inside of Roberson's house. That has been redacted by deputies, but whatever deputies saw, along with the two incidents of her children that morning, police originally charged Roberson with 5 counts of child neglect, all felonies. As deputies are talking to her inside the home, her husband, Jacob Roberson, returns.
You're up for saying this is not the first time something like this happened. There's been other.
Yeah.
I got you.
It's happened.
Okay.
The house, man.
Yeah, no, I got you.
Most people just don't understand. It's hard. I mean, we have the lock. I mean, the doors are drilled shut in the back and the front they're all locked. So
Now, you notice that Roberson seems to think that the problem that we're dealing with here is that the children escaped the house. Now, that is certainly an issue, especially when one of your kids is found running across 4 lanes of traffic on a busy road. But it's unclear in watching this whether he recognizes that perhaps the bigger issue here is the sanitary conditions of his home or lack thereof.
That you were going to get breakfast or
yeah, on
something?
my way home from paintballs and grab some breakfast.
Okay, I got you.
I just fed them and they
How you doing? All right.
Was it breakfast for like
All of them.
everyone? Okay, gotcha.
And then y'all called. I just came home.
Okay. Yeah, they were saying, I don't know, I didn't try calling, but they were saying they're having a hard time getting a hold of you.
Roberson was originally charged with 5 counts of child neglect. Here's what happens after a detective arrives and speaks with both Danielle and Jacob, and then you can hear the detective telling Jacob that DCF, or the Social Services Agency in Florida, is going to be called.
Get them organized.
Oh man, y'all got your hands full.
Yeah, for sure. No question about that.
So as far as today goes, whenever you left to go run and grab breakfast, everybody was up and moving around and everybody's doing fine.
Yeah, I mean, early.
Okay. You stay here every night though, right?
Yeah, yeah.
This is like your house?
This is my house,
Okay.
yes, sir.
Okay, cool. I'm just trying, oh yeah, like I said, I'm just now meeting you guys. I gotta try to paint a full picture.
Yeah, absolutely.
Documented everything like it needs to be documented, but just because kids got out today and we're wandering around, DCF's gonna come too.
Okay.
They're gonna come talk to you guys and discuss something like that.
Yeah.
You said y'all planned it before.
Yeah, I mean, we've been begging for help, like some way to not running away. I mean, the other couple times it's happened, got out and went out through the fence that was down next door. So this is like the first time.
It's unclear what came of social services entering this home. Both of the cases of the parents are now closed. In Jacob's case, he wasn't prosecuted for the 5 child neglect charges that he originally faced. That is according to Okaloosa County court records that we found. The mom, though, Danielle, pleaded guilty to 1 count of felony child neglect, and she received probation for that. The 4 other charges she was not prosecuted for. But then, according to those online court records, Danielle violated probation. She was then rearrested and has been sentenced to prison. She is currently serving a 2-year sentence in a minimum security prison. That sentence is for the child neglect charge from the case that we have been talking about, which was from September of last year, as well as another child neglect charge, and that is from a case in May of last year. And on top of that, there is a larceny charge of stealing more than $750, and that was related from a case from July of last year. Join us now to talk about this case is retired NYPD Detective David Sarney. It's always great to have you on Law and Crime, even for cases that are so just disturbing, and it's sad when you see these cases. We've talked about a few of them. I know you watched the body camera video that we just saw. As a police officer, what stood out to you?
It's just kind of the matter of fact aspect or attitude the father had. The cops are at your house, at your residence, and you're on your phone, you're checking things, you think nothing is up, nothing of it. And then I like how he started cleaning up around the area. Like now I'm going to start picking up around this. The wife in the house, this is, it goes back to the same thing. Parenting, the lack of these individuals who know how to parent or really a responsibility is so lacking. It's just their lives revolve, but their lives continue, and their kids are an after effect. It's just an aftermath, and they don't seem to be too concerned.
And I thought, like, even though there was a lot that was redacted in this video, you look at the outside of the house, and we didn't see what the inside of the house looked like, but you just saw stuff. And it's everybody lives their lives differently. People are cleaner than others. I get that. But at what point for you as a police officer does it cross from these people are just really messy to this is a problem for the children in the home?
Well, that's the issue. The exterior you do with pack rats and people. With kids, you have a lot of things, a lot of toys, a lot of things. And that's why access to the inside of the house or the apartment is necessary, because you want to see how the kids are living. You want to see what's in the fridge. You want to see the where they're sleeping. You get an idea of the overall picture of what's going on in that house. And that's why, I'm going to presume, and I have to speculate at this point, if you have kids running in the streets, feces covered, that residence is probably in the same manner that the children looked like. And that's, to what the mom, when she spoke to the officers, you could hear she's like, she was doing something, but she was asleep, probably more than likely asleep, because, the officers trying to look in, knocking on the door for several minutes, no answer. And if you're concerned about your kids, you're up with them. You're going to, right. I know you're working, whatever lives are as they are, but you're up with them, and you want to make sure where they are. And it seemed like she then realized her kids aren't, kids not there. They ran away. And I didn't see a panic in either one of them. Like, oh my God, did you find him? Did you find him? What happened? It was matter of fact attitude. And you've got multiple officers at your house and they find your kid. I'd have a little bit more concern. And it seemed to be the lack of concern was very telling.
And it's not the first time that police have had some sort of issue with this family before. I mean, when a police officer finds your child in feces, which is just so sad to think about, at a gas station, and the officer knows who that kid is and where he lives, that screams a major problem. And in these cases where it's easy for someone on the outside to be like, these kids cannot be in the home. We got to call DCF, get DCF involved. I know that we've talked in the past that you don't, the best outcome is typically for kids to be kept with the family. How do you figure that out? I mean, if you're coming to this house multiple times, you're having these types of issues, the foster care system is not great. And I'm not saying in this case that that's what these children deserve, but just in these cases that we've talked about in the past, how do you figure out what the right outcome is for the children and make sure they're safe?
Yeah, there has to be resources available when Child Protective Services get involved. There has to be an outlet. That means they have to get some resources. People there who are child care advocates, child care, people who are involved, either nonprofit organizations where they'll sit with the families and help them and educate and inform them on how to maintain these kids. That this is where we don't like separating the families, and I know ACS in New York City doesn't like to separate the families, and I guarantee you most of these agencies don't. But then there has to be some sort of fail-safe for these families. When law enforcement gets involved, it's in the prosecutorial, it's in the arrest format. We can refer, but those references actually have to work for these kids. And if you want to keep the families together, you have to look at ways that nonprofits can sort of advocate for them, get involved within the system, and visit these homes if they become warning signs. Feces covered children aren't a thing. A messy residence can happen because they're kids, but if there's a problem with failure to thrive, and you don't want these kids you want these kids to be helped, get the resources available for the family to assist them in teaching them how to be good parents. Because I don't think these individuals, the father was out going to get breakfast, and it was at 1:00 in the afternoon, and his phone was not available to him right away. And you heard in the voice, he had his phone put away. He was out. I think he was I couldn't hear, was it maybe paintball? But if you're going to be out, and that's okay. Families, adults have to do what they do, but someone's got to be in charge. And if they're not learning how to do it, and I'm going to have a feeling that when they were raised in similar situations, and it kind of rolls downward. And the kids are not thriving. Where is the advocacy to make sure these kids are thriving? If they're too young and they can't go to school, where is the extra source for these families to go and be trained in how to take care of their kids?
Well, and I think too for this not being the first time, according to Okaloosa County, deputies and what we know about this case, that there's kind of just this, to your point, like lackadaisical nature to the father in this. And then for the mom, as if like they have do you find that in those cases where law enforcement is regularly involved or communicating with people, that it's almost like not the power of law enforcement, but the shock of, in a lot of parents' cases, if a police officer showed up one time, that would scare them straight into cleaning things up. But then over time, it's almost as if when a cop shows up, it's been normalized.
That's the thing. I mean, law enforcement can only do what it does. They go to the scene. If there's criminality, there's an arrest made. The rest of the criminal justice system has to be involved. They get arrested, which is what happens. And what's the aftercare as a result of that? And that's where the corrections aspect comes in. The courts, all of these things have to come into play. If you're so worried about advocating for criminals, and these family members are at a point where they're not thriving any which way, that's where we have to maybe focus the resources on. You can't fix certain people, can't fix always criminals, but families can be repaired. I mean, they have the kids there. There are toys there. I don't see what's in the house, but they're running around in feces. So is it old feces? We don't know because they won't show the children. I mean, this is something that you can fix. It's fixable, but you have to really put the effort and the resources available for agencies to do that fixing. Because if they're not abused, if they're abused because they're failing to thrive, that's something different than physical abuse. And what'll next happen if these are not getting trained, and we unfortunately, when it came to the father, he gets, they decline to prosecute, and the mom goes through her process, and she doesn't follow up on her process. So There really has to be a real push. And I know certain states have their way of handling it, but when it comes to kids, you really have to be focused. If we're going to advocate for kids and advocate for families, we can fix a family. It can be fixed.
And we've talked about a couple of these cases when it comes to neglect. And I did notice that with the father, he wasn't home at the time that the kids ran away. I don't know if that went into how his legal proceedings played out. From the online court records I saw, they declined to prosecute him. The mom was originally charged with 5 counts of child neglect. She ended up taking a plea for 1 count. What goes in on the prosecutorial side to whether or not you really throw the hammer down on parents who, have had very tough situations with their kids? Or is it just the court system there's so many of these cases that you can't prosecute every single one to the full extent of the law?
It's a multitude of issues. And you have to look at if the family has been involved in the criminal justice process before, process before. You have to do there has to be some sort of repair. If you're not going to incarcerate, then we're talking about reforms and things like that. Fix these individuals so when they go back to their families, they're doing better. And it looks like we're in a quandary. And like I said, police can only do so much. There's responsibilities of police enforcing the law, apprehending people, providing social resources. But the reality is social services, we can advocate for you, say, go to this source. But if the source is not going to pursue anything further, and I don't know what resources are available in the county for these families, how much is put into improving their lives, the kids. I mean, we worry about these failure to thrive things, and we worry about physical abuse. Physical abuse, they're going to prosecute. That's really more about, this is where child neglect, okay, they neglected the kid, so what do we do? Okay, you decrease the charges, you have a plea to 1, but what was the aftercare? If we're looking to reform the criminal justice system and stop putting people in jail, then what are we doing for those that are getting out and are going to, she's on probation, whatever it's going to be, she takes the plea. What is the push to fix it? And I see all these criminal justice reform advocates saying we want to do this, we want to do that, but I don't see, when it comes to kids, they always slip. It seems like they slip through the cracks more often than not, and that's a problem, and that's a huge problem, because these kids who are abused and fail to thrive, it is unfortunately it's a cyclical effect. It's like they're going to continue to do this, and that's why I say I think if you look at the family, the parents, they probably raised the same way, because they don't know any better. So why don't we break the cycle, find a way to say, okay, what can we do to get these families together? And I don't know if there was aftercare with this, and that's the problem. They don't decline to prosecute criminally, okay. So what are we going to do to reform and repair the situation? And as I was on the job for 27 years, and I can't fix everything, but if you're part of the criminal justice system, somewhere along the line, the prosecutor, along with the courts and corrections, have to find a way to see how we can advocate for the families to make it better, so these kids, we don't have these failures every time. We don't have to deal with these situations. And it seems they come constantly with kids.
It does, and it seems like we're talking about a new story related to neglect every single week, and it's always so shocking, and you just hope that through the criminal justice process that these parents can come out on the other side better for it, but unfortunately we do see cases where that doesn't happen. Another shocking case. David Sarney, it's always great to have you on Law and Crime. Thanks for helping us break this down.
Thank you very much. Stay safe.
That will do it for On the Case, presented by Law and Crime. Subscribe to us on YouTube and Spotify. I'm Chris Stewart. We'll see you next time.